China's devious and depraved ways in the Galwan Valley after the border clash. Well, after the bloodshed on June the 15th, soldiers from both sides, India and China, were looking for wounded soldiers. While India handed over a dozen Chinese troops, including a colonel, within hours, China delayed the handing over of more than 50 wounded Indian troops and kept delaying the matter for close to 24 hours, citing procedures. However, not all the men were handed over even after 24 hours. The Chinese army decided to hold back 10, including 4 officers, probably as a bargaining chip, and it took a great deal of Indian negotiation to end the stalemate. Abhishek Bhalla live with us on those pretty disturbing details. Abhishek, how the Chinese tried to hold on to a bargaining chip but failed in the end.
Yes, very disturbing, Shiv, because, there was a mutual understanding that the two sides will look for the wounded soldiers on either side, irrespective of whether it's on our side of the LAC or on that side of the LAC, and that's what happened. In fact, in this search that went on for hours in the night, both the sides realized that many of the soldiers had died, and by early morning, India handed over about a dozen Chinese soldiers. However, it took a long time for China to return the wounded soldiers back to India. I mean, there were about 50 to 60 that they returned, but it was 24 hours later. And even then, they held back 10, which included 4 officers. And this became another flashpoint for the next 3 days when there were hectic negotiations, meetings at the Major General level. And finally, after 3 days of talks, they decided to release them. During these meetings, they kept on saying that, yes, we assure you that they are all safe, there's no problem to them. And they kept on making one excuse or the other. Sometimes they said that some official procedural work is required. They need to make a log of these Indian personnel who were in their custody. They need to bring in their seniors. So these lame excuses, if one can say, kept on lingering the entire process. And in that process, Indian soldiers, including officers, ended up being in Chinese custody for 4 days.
Abhishek, thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to keep Gaurav back with me for a moment because I want to return to the story that we broke to you here on India Today. We've got the full context of these amazing visuals that we've brought out from the Pangong Lake. This is September 2019. This is a video from 8 months before the current standoff that is being witnessed in the area. Now, let me just tell you very clearly what you're looking at. This is an Indian patrol beyond Finger 4 in an area that has been traditionally patrolled by both sides. So this video very clearly shows you an Indian patrol team after Finger 4 patrolling in the area and being challenged by the Chinese. But the Indian army stands its ground and challenges the Chinese right back, simply not allowing them to pass. But take a look at the amount of force, hostile force that the Indian team faces. Larger number of Chinese troops, boats coming in on the water, heavy vehicles, all-terrain vehicles coming along the shore, which you can see very clearly. And all of this in a very organized and hostile maneuver to somehow overwhelm the Indian team. But as you can see, brave Indian Jawans and officers simply standing their ground and not letting the Chinese pass. And we can tell you that at the end of this video, the Chinese had to turn and go back despite being there in larger numbers. September 2019 video from Pangong, so 8 months before the current standoff, and a clear indicator of the atmosphere that had been building in this very, very sensitive sector that has escalated to a large degree in the current standoff now. 8 months after this video that you're looking at, there was a violent brawl at Finger 4 between Indian and Chinese troops in which several persons were injured, and that is seen as the trigger point for the current standoff that today marks its 50th day, ladies and gentlemen. 50 days of the current standoff. This video from 8 months before, giving you many things to think about what the Indian Army faces in a sector where the Chinese have been more aggressive than any other sector in Ladakh. Abhishek Bhalla back with us live and exclusive on this video. First on India Today. Abhishek, many things to take away from this video because it's only 8 months before the current standoff, and it clearly shows the heightened aggression being shown by Chinese in an area that has traditionally been, patrolled by both sides. We have located where there are different clips that are stitched together, Abhishek, and they're all somewhere between finger 4 and finger 8. And this shows you how the Chinese have deliberately been trying to overwhelm with force, and which is something that they've continued to do now with its concrete positions in finger 4.
Shiv, this video from September 2019 puts to context the current confrontation. It was back then last year when the Chinese made all efforts to make sure that Indian patrols do not go beyond finger 4. In fact, they had come up with some kind of a fortification, a blockade between finger 4 and finger 5. Now, instead of picking up a fight, what the Indian troops did was they went up the ridgeline and made an alternative walking path, one can say, that took them to the finger 5 area. And that's what really riled up the Chinese, seeing the Indian troops right there once again, despite that blockade being there. So this, tussle started in September last year. In fact, what I'm told is that a similar attempt was made way back in 2015. At that point of time, Indian troops actually, broke that blockade that was created by them. And since September 2019, this problem continued. Once the winter had set in, it was obviously very difficult to go out patrolling because at those, sub-zero temperatures, life can be extremely tough. After the winter faded away, come summer, and once again there was a confrontation because Indian troops continued to go past the blockade and reach the finger 5 area, and that's where the face-offs happened. And in the meanwhile, the Chinese had actually increased their deployment manifold. They had come up with bunkers, they had come up with observation posts and new fortifications, and that's where the Indian Army was in a way came under some surprise, because they had not expected this kind of quick mobilization by the Chinese, and that too at finger 4, where which has been under Indian control, and between finger 4 and finger 8, India claims territory till finger 8, and it's considered a grey zone. They had come up with these new fortifications in that grey zone between finger 4 and finger 8 as well.
Okay, I want to play these visuals full frame now. You are, if you look at some of those pictures, you can see the Indian Army soldiers holding up a banner, a red banner, and waving it at the Chinese. You can see that it says, "You are on Indian territory," and as per the laid down border protocols, you cannot patrol after this point. You must go back. We'll put that in text on your screen in just a moment. But I want my viewers to, pay very close attention to the details of what you're looking at. We've shown you maps so far of the Pangong Lake. This is taking place between finger 4 and finger 8, and we'll have that map for you so you can tell exactly where this is taking place. But what you're seeing here is what happens when patrolling parties of both sides run into each other. In this particular case, you're looking at a large Chinese patrolling contingent making an attempt to overwhelm the Indian patrolling party, but obviously failing. You can see some Indian soldiers sitting down on the mud track there in an effort to make sure that none of the vehicles can pass through. You can see them holding up the banner, but the Chinese are very aggressive. Not only do they have troops in large numbers, they've got boats on the surface of the lake. You can see them, in an aggressive linear posture, all lining up in formation, to project power and intimidate. Intimidation is a great feature of what you're looking at in these pictures from 8 months before the current standoff. I want to bring in Major General A.K. Sivach, who's a well-known defense expert. He's with me on the phone line to make sense of this for us as well. General Sivach, A fresh video coming in from September 2019, 8 months before the current standoff. You know, the Chinese aggression and efforts to intimidate, very clear in this video, sir. They've got their boats lined up, they've got their all-terrain vehicles, and they've got large numbers of troops trying to overwhelm the Indians. But of course, the Indian Jawans are holding their ground.
Absolutely, Shiv. See, there is no doubt about it. As far as finger 4 to 8 is concerned, it was under a sort of a conflict for a long time back. See, as you are aware of it, when we were busy in Kargil war, that is the time they built up a road from finger 8 to finger 4. And so their aim of, building up something between finger 8 and 4 was there for a long time. And there were a lot of conflict between India and China patrols between finger 4 and 8.
Yes.
So therefore, whatever is being said, it looks like that is a fact. And the way they have now also constructed infrastructure and between finger 4 and 8 gives the impression as to how did we allow it. Because after all, we have also got a post on the base of finger 4.
Yes.
Why did we allow between so much of, construction and infrastructure coming between finger 4 and 8? So it has not started very recently. And you have very rightly said that they were trying long time back. And though we claim up to finger 8, but we were only patrolling and we were not having any presence there. And hence the Chinese made use of it. Now also when they have come in, someone will ask, how did we allow that to happen?
Yeah.
Therefore, Shiv, this is the main thing. So whatever is being told that they were trying to take this area between finger 8 and 4 for long. There are two reasons for it. One is the height which are there on the north of Pangong are very critical for them.
Yes.
Because if you remember, the boats which are being parked, the Lukung, which is the area where our 14, speed boat are there, they dominate that area from there. And between finger 8 to 4, again what happened is that they dominate majority of the lake.
Yes.
So this patrolling in Pangong, also is restricted. So therefore, this area has become very relevant strategically as far as the Chinese are concerned.
General
And
Sivaj,
over a period of time, they have taken this.
General Sivaj, what happens when these petrol parties run into each other like this? We can hear a lot of, shouting and stuff. We've seen some of these petrol collisions escalate into violent fisticuffs. But when two patrolling parties meet like this on the shores of the Pangong, so what happens, sir?
In Pangong, what happened is, by and large, no one has, whenever their boat has come and our is come, a face-off is there, usually we have not been so much aggressive. We have both the parties have sort of separated from each other and gone back. Unlike what happened on the ground, where there is a scuffle, there is a fist fight, it doesn't happen as far as on the lake is concerned. See, I'm trying to convey this 135 kilometers of long Pangong, 45 kilometers with us, and almost 90 kilometers, 89 to 90 kilometers with them. When we cross over, almost about even 43, 44, that time also they come. They come very fast to challenge it. But I have never seen in my tenure also a sort of, situation aggravating so much. Though they were showing, sort of offensive posture. But after 2012, when we have bought these modern boats from America, they equally felt it that we are equally strong. There was a sort of face-off, but never you can say that we have used a force against each other in the lake itself.
Okay, thanks very much, General Sivaj, for joining us with the latest on this story. This is a video that you've seen first here on India Today. We're providing you with the context. Please don't fall for any other channel trying to make you think that this is a new video. This is from September 2019 or possibly even earlier than that in 2019 when this particular video has been taken. Let me emphasize once again, it is not from the current standoff. But we've put out this video, we've taken a decision to put out this video because it shows you what happens on the banks of the Pangong in areas that have been claimed by both sides. An area that has been patrolled by both sides, but since May, 8 months after this video was taken, the situation has escalated considerably, with the Chinese now creating permanent defensive positions in areas far ahead of where this video is actually taken. So Pangong So has become a much bigger hotspot than just an area where troops run into each other in this manner. We've shown you in our past reports as well that Pangong So could be perhaps a site of a skirmish. There are former army chiefs as well who say that Pangong So, if ever there is a skirmish, this would perhaps be the most reasonable place for that to happen, given the eyeball-to-eyeball situation between Indian and the new Chinese positions there. Well, keep watching.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.